What is going on, everybody? I'm your man, Rob Westerman of GP Daily, and with me today to preview tonight's Packers 49ers game is Zach Jacobson. How we doing, Zach?
Good, man. I am ready to tackle the day with you.
Yeah, perfect. You waiting all day for Sunday night or what?
I've seen that quoted like 5 times on the timeline today already. Yeah. Carrie Underwood inspired so many
Oh yeah,
people with that quote.
perfect. Well, let's just dive in. So we all know the Packers position groups and kind of what they're all about. So I figured we'd go through a few groups of San Francisco and see how the Packers and their crews kind of match up or kind of fare for tonight's game. Ready to roll?
Let's do it, man.
Let's do it. First up, let's check out the passing game. Jimmy G's at the helm. Obviously, last time we played him was in 2019, and he went 6 for 8, 77 passing yards, and we remember that as the 37-20 loss in the NFC title game. Assuming he passes for more than 8 attempts, how does our secondary fare against guys like Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, and obviously one of, if not the best tight end in football, George Kittle?
I think this is like, from the 49ers perspective, this is the opportunity for their unit to kind of break out.
Yep.
Obviously, we know what the issues with the Packers secondary are right now. Kevin King, he's kind of up in the air. Now he's moved to the slot, so we're still kind of like in the process of seeing how that's going to work out. But
Right.
you look at George Kittle, he only has 95 yards through 2 games. So he's still trying to get going right now. There's a perfect opportunity for him to kind of really, pick up the pace against this secondary.
Yeah.
And then you look at Debo Samuel. He has, I think, 282 yards. He leads all wide receivers. I think that's kind of at the point where you kind of just let Jair do his thing, because I'm assuming he's going to be matched up with Debo. Probably won't shadow him. He'll probably stick to his side of the field, but that's going to be his primary matchup, I'm assuming. And then Brandon Ayuk, he's been relatively invisible through the first 2 games. So
Yep.
it's the opportunity tonight for that group to kind of really put things together and use the Packers, kind of like how the Packers use the Lions as like their bounce back performance. The 49ers aren't really bouncing back from anything. They're 2-0, but
Right.
they haven't performed to the fullest extent of their capabilities. Like, we know this is a dynamic team. We know that Kyle Shanahan, he's able to just maximize those position groups. That's why it doesn't even matter who they have in the backfield.
Yeah, and as we were talking about earlier, their backfield is just decimated with injuries. They kind of got a Trey Sermon. Obviously, he's going to take the load today. Trey Sermon, right?
Yeah, it's going to be Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell, and Jaquez Patrick, I believe is his name.
Yep. So some kind of not no-name guys, but definitely guys who haven't had a ton of experience. I agree with you that the Niner offense is obviously filled with those like crossing and rub route type combinations, as we saw last week with the kind of miscue that Stokes and King had on that switch rub route, ended up in a touchdown. If our DBs can kind of talk and communicate out there, and if Amos and Savage can keep the rotating corners, between Stokes, King, and Sullivan, if they can kind of keep them in the right position, I think we'll be as ready as they can be. With that being said, yeah, you can do everything perfect and still get beat by Kittle because, yeah, he's just that good. So,
yeah,
next
you're
line. Go
absolutely
ahead.
right. Sorry about that. It
You're
all
good.
comes down to, like you said, that communication.
Right.
That is and really, when you think about the communication, that comes down to whoever's wearing the communications helmet, who is
Yep.
going to be Chris Barnes. It has to be that starting middle linebacker's job to kind of make sure everybody else is on the same page, make sure they're all, they know what their assignments are. Like, I'm glad that you mentioned that touchdown to Quintez Cephas.
Yeah.
That King and Stokes had that it was that just breakdown of communication. King kind of bounced inside, and there was just that confusion in the middle of the field, and then he was completely unguarded in the left corner of the end zone. So those breakdowns make the difference in these games,
Yeah.
and especially against an experienced, good team like the one the 49ers have.
Yep. No doubt. And yeah, if they can kind of keep the talk, right in the DBs, and it's like, all right, well, as ready as they can be, really. So next in line is the offensive line for the Niners. Obviously, we know Z's still out, and that leaves us with guys like Preston, Rashawn, Chauncey Rivers, Delonte Scott on the edge. and Casey in the middle with a few, role players that can hopefully give him a hand. I was reading yesterday that the O line for the Niners is basically near the top of the league rankings as far as pass blocking, protecting the quarterback. They've also allowed no sacks outside of their run game, which I expect to see a lot of, regardless of who's playing running back, as we were just saying. You think Joe Barry will have to kind of spice things up a bit to generate some pressure, or how can we force some stress on Jimmy G when he drops back?
I think spicing things up in terms of their pressure. I mean that's pretty much what they did in the second half against the Lions. There was a lot
Yep.
of guys kind of schemed into spaces where it was manufactured pressure pretty much because these guys
Yeah.
against this offensive line, yeah, it is near the top of the league, and I think you can't rely on these guys to win their one-on-one battles. You can't rely. There's no Zadarius Smith, so they can't rely on Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark, just those three guys to be able to generate pressure. Kingsley Keke needs to step up. Tyler
Yep.
Lancaster, TJ Slayton, if he gets the snaps, if he gets, which I'm hoping he does. I don't know why he hasn't seen
Me too.
extensive playing time yet, but yeah, and the Packers have just one sack through 2 games. That's like near the bottom of the league right now, I think. So
Yeah.
the 49ers, I think it's more so, it's not so much about getting pressure and affecting Jimmy Garoppolo because Jair is going to do his thing. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's not great, but he'll make the throws you need him to make.
Yep.
It's more so about being able to halt their running game and forcing them into like long second down situations, long third down situations. Like the 49ers, they're one of the worst teams in terms of running the ball on first down. So if you can make
Yep.
an impact on those early downs and force them into longer situations, then I mean that's going to make the difference.
Yeah, no doubt. And like you said, I wish I could see more of TJ Slayton. And I was listening today to Andy Herman, and he said if all those guys play okay, then that's what we're really expecting. I mean, it's just to play kind of average or even at least below average,
The bare
and not
minimum.
just not just horrendous.
Yeah, you need like the bare minimum from these guys. If they're
Right.
if they are average to good anywhere in that realm, then I mean this defensive front could be special. But the problem is nobody really outside of Kenny Clark, in terms of the defensive linemen, nobody has been even close to average.
Right.
Lancaster has not been good. You have not seen, Dean Lowry is Dean Lowry. He's just he fluctuates as a player. You don't know what to really expect from him on a week to week basis.
Yeah.
And you can't have that. And we haven't seen Jack Heflin, get any snaps. So, yeah, this group as a whole just needs to be better. And against this this offensive line that the 49ers have, it's hard to see that. It's hard to see that this is the game where they kind of put it all together and they're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, everything's kind of meshing together now. I can't see that happening. So they need to be good. The guys that are normally good need to be great. Kenny Clark, Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, those
Yep.
guys need to really carry this entire defensive front.
Yeah. No doubt. I completely agree. Next up, this is kind of what everybody's been talking about, obviously all week, and especially when the news broke out about Eldon being out tonight. Is the Niners defensive front. They've got some dogs in the trenches, obviously starting with Nick Bosa. He's got guys next to him like Javon Kinlaw, Reek Armstead. I know, and just about everyone in the Packer world knows about our O-line situation. D-Bach is out. We got some rookies on the inside, and now with Elton out, that kind of leaves some questions heading into the night about who will be playing tackle and where. I saw Ian Rapport say maybe Yosh has a chance to play left tackle. That kind of surprised me. What do you think the starting line will look like? And will the Packers use guys like Mercedes and DeGuara to help chip, do anything they can to kind of slow that rush?
Yeah, well, I think Mercedes Lewis is definitely going to function as that sixth offensive lineman. I think that's going to be a huge part of the plan tonight. It just they got to do whatever they can to fortify whichever side they feel is necessary. Which I think I'm
Yeah,
assuming is going to be the left side because that's where Nick Bosa is going to be coming off. But
right.
yeah, the word on the street is right now that it's going to be Josh Nijman. So at left tackle, and it's going to be his first start. He looked really good over the summer, really good in the preseason.
Yeah,
He was
athletic.
responsible for the play that Jordan Love got hurt on, but I mean, outside of that, that was his one little miscue, and he was actually one of the candidates that was going to open the season at left tackle, so they can keep Elton Jenkins inside at left guard. But obviously, they didn't do that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think from left to right, you're gonna have Nijman, you're gonna have John Runyon, I see him
Yeah,
getting his second straight start over Lucas Patrick,
same here.
Josh Myers, Royce Newman, and then you're going to have Billy Turner at right tackle. Unless they could always take Billy Turner. This is there's so many different combinations they can roll with.
Right.
You can take Billy Turner, move him to right guard where he played all of 2019, and you can
Uh-huh.
plug in Dennis Kelly right there at right tackle.
Yeah.
The original perception I feel like amongst everybody was that they were going to kick Billy Turner all the way to left tackle and have Dennis Kelly at right tackle. But
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the kind of method to their madness when it comes to playing Nyman at left tackle, because in that sense, you are just kind of sacrificing one position as opposed to two.
Yeah.
Everything else kind of remains the same. So it's a really fluid unit right now.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was at too, as far as before the news came out today about Yash. I thought maybe they'd move Turner over and put in Kelly, or like you said, maybe put Turner inside guard. And once the news came out, I was like, well, that could possibly be a route they could go. But like you said, instead of moving everybody around, just plug in Yash at left tackle, and then everything's kind of at least the same everywhere else, and then maybe they could focus on helping him at left tackle. But overall, yeah, I'm right there with you. I was talking last week about some sacks on Rodgers that I thought were kind of uncharacteristic, specifically the one where he spun like right into the guy rushing on his backside.
Mhm.
But if we can stick to the running game, regardless of the O line, mixed with some quick passes, obviously some screen plays, and maybe slow the rush every now and then, they'll give themselves a fighting chance to kind of make their front seven like less of a factor or less effective than everyone thinks there will be, because that's kind of been the talk all week, and now especially with Eldon out.
Yeah, I think it helps that. I mean, it doesn't help. It's still either way you're going to be hindered by losing your second preferred left tackle. But the Packers, I mean, they get the luxury of at least preparing for this in advance. I mean, yeah,
Right.
they were giving Elton Jenkins the week to recover from that ankle injury. Obviously, he can't go, but it gives them a chance to work with some of those contingency plans, before the game. I mean, in their first trip
Yeah.
to San Francisco, I think November 2019, they lost Brian Bulaga nine snaps into the game, and they had to throw Alex Light to the wolves out there at right tackle, and it was bad.
Yeah. That was rough.
So yeah, now they can at least prepare in advance for this. So that's always good. And plus, those first two meetings with the 49ers, that regular season and the NFC Championship game, a lot of where things kind of broke down for the Packers was in the interior. They were getting all of this
Yep.
interior pressure, and it was really just throwing off the timing and the rhythm for Aaron Rodgers, this whole offense. I mean, and when
Yeah.
it falls apart for Aaron Rodgers, it pretty much falls apart for everybody. So
Right.
there's ways to mitigate the loss of one of your tackles. Like how we talked about. You have
Yeah.
Mercedes Lewis out there. You just have your big blocking tight end to kind of come up as a sixth offensive lineman, pretty much. So there's ways to work around that. And Aaron Rodgers, he's really good at navigating the tackles when they get pushed into his lap. He's really good at kind of working around that. So I'm more concerned with that interior pressure. I want to see this young, inexperienced interior between the left guard, center, and right guard hold up against whoever the 49ers decide to go with in there. Because I mean, like you said, they have Nick
Yeah.
Bosa, they have Eric Armstead, D Ford, Javon Kinlaw. It's a nasty defensive line. So
Yeah.
yeah, they got to make sure they're strong in the interior.
Yeah. Those are some just beastly names that they have all together, and probably one of the better groups. I mean, I was just watching the Browns Bears game, and their defensive line is just feasting, and that probably has somewhat to do with the Chicago Bears old line. But yeah, this 49ers front, obviously nothing to, look past as far as, anything. And like you said, with the interior pressure being the biggest problem, we had Lindsley, obviously the best center in the league, and now we've got three rookies at, guard, center, guard. JRJ is a sophomore technically now, so I guess two. But still inexperience. I'd seen earlier today someone had tweeted out that this is their first true road game for a lot of these guys with fans, and that is obviously something that is going to be huge for today. So last but not least, let's talk about the Shanahan and his offense going up against Joe Barry and our defense. Um, as Andy Herman pointed out today in his daily chat on YouTube, at least Joe Barry has gone up against somewhat of a similar style of Shanahan's offense during practice, whether it was last year with the Rams when he was coaching and going up against McVay, and then obviously this year going up against LaFleur. Is there anything that sticks out to you that you're kind of worried about in the matchup of Joe Barry and Kyle Shanahan tonight?
Oh yeah, pretty much everything.
Same here. Uh-huh. I had texted you earlier, and I had said that, and I was like, "If anything," and I was like, "If anything," I should have been like at least narrow it down to one because it's basically everything.
Pretty much. I mean, Andy makes a good point. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a scheme that the Packers defense is familiar with. You know, like he said, they've been practicing against this group all summer,
Yep.
and the prior experience with the Rams and going up Sean McVay against Sean McVay's offense. This is a group that they're accustomed to some of these things, these rub routes, guys being schemed into open space, and the emphasis on play action and the running game, and the illusion of complexity, where like guys are lined up in similar formations, but they run different plays out of them,
Yeah.
than what they're expecting. So it helps absolutely that they're familiar with this. Now, do I see that making much of an impact or really swaying this game? Probably not, because I mean, yeah, it's the same group that this defense has been practicing against pretty much, all summer with Joe Barry. But Kyle Shanahan, I think he knows that, of all people. He
Yeah.
knows that he's going up against defense that kind of, now coordinated by a guy who shares similar philosophies to what, um, he or they've been practicing against similar philosophies to the ones that he has been preaching, in his career as a head
Right.
coach. So, he's as good at adjusting as anybody, and uh creating new concepts, out of some of these packages that he runs. So yeah, definitely it helps. Yeah, it maybe helps if you want to talk yourself into that feeling of kind of like calm. To calm yourself
Yeah.
before the actual today. But and Kyle Shanahan, like I said, of all people, he's as good as anybody at adjusting.
Yeah. I'm with you. Like guys like Debo Samuel, obviously, like you said earlier, he's leading the league in receiving yards. And Kittle,
Mhm.
as I said earlier, again, obviously one of, if not the best tight end in football. I think he's better than Kelsey altogether. Obviously, Kelsey is more of a receiving threat, whatnot. Big plays for either of these two can happen at any time, and that's all it really takes to swing a game. Is one of these, like a couple years ago against the Niners when Kittle had that like across the field deep route for a touchdown that was just a backbreaker. It seemed like those guys, yeah, just friggin' firecrackers and basically can break a game at any time. So before we close it down here, last time we did some over unders, so I figured we'd do it again. I'll say the line. You just let me know if you're thinking over or under. You ready to rock?
I'm ready to rock and roll, man. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, first up, start with Rodgers. Over under 275 and a half passing yards.
Over.
Over. Bold. That's what I was thinking too. Obviously last year he had 300 plus yard. Him and Devontae just went off.
Yeah,
Rodgers
yeah.
over under. Go ahead.
Sorry. The question is like how he'll get those yards. Is he going to get it, the course of the game, a back and forth game, or is he going to get it in garbage time trying to come
Right.
back? That's that's the question.
Yeah. Are we gonna falter in the first half and then just go straight passing in the second half? Yeah. No, you're exactly right. Another one. Rodgers over under 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Over.
Go ahead. I'll repeat it. I didn't hear your answer. My bad. Rodgers over under 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Wait, can you hear me now? I think my connection
Yeah, I got you.
is body. Oh, good. Uh,
You just let me know when you're good. You're kind of breaking up a little bit right now. You're good though.
can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, I can hear you. You just let me know when you're ready to roll. While Zach figures it out, I'm gonna go through these and kind of answer them myself. Um, as he said, he was going over 275 and a half passing yards. I'm with him. Last year, obviously, him and Devontae just went off and was a huge part. Obviously, we didn't have a whole lot of Aaron Jones, mainly just because we were passing and finding success in doing that. So over 275.5 passing yards. Next, we got Rodgers over under 1.5 passing touchdowns. I'm gonna go over. I'd seen the over under with interceptions, and that's kind of where I was intrigued. I thought he maybe would have definitely gone over a half, but this defense is fierce. Zach, you're back. What's going on? You good?
Yeah, I'm notorious for having shitty internet, I guess.
Hey, you're good. You're good. So we last checked. I didn't hear your answer, but it was Rodgers over under 1.5 passing touchdowns.
I picked the over.
Yep, I'm for sure going there too. I'm thinking maybe 3, depending on the kind of night and the kind of second half, maybe 4. And even if it's not really legit passing touchdowns, like those tap ones to Aaron Jones, obviously last week was that worked to perfection. So
Mhm.
next we got Aaron Jones over under 58.5 rushing yards.
Ooh.
That's a tough one.
It really is. I mean, I love Aaron Jones, but I mean, this offensive line and that defensive front.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
especially if
take
they
the
throw AJ
over.
Dillon in there. Man,
Yeah, but I'm gonna take the over, but not
take
by
the over,
much.
like barely, like 65 maybe.
I think like between 65, 70 yards. Because I mean,
Yep.
he had a great game last week, but he had 67 rushing yards. You know, he hasn't really
Right.
found his stride yet. So
Nope.
yeah, I'll take
Completely
the
agree.
over.
Yep. Let's do Aaron Jones over under 4.5 receptions.
I'm gonna take the over.
Over. And that's what we were just talking about. Those tip passes. If he gets 2 of
Mm-hmm.
those and then obviously a couple more in the screen game, like we were talking about earlier, if they'll probably run more screens to kind of slow the rush. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna go over 2.
he lined up at a lot of different spots on the field last week against the Lions, and you know, I'm starting to think they're beginning to deploy him more in the passing game. You know,
Yeah.
so I think
Which they should.
yeah, absolutely.
So next up, Devontae over under 86.5 receiving yards. That seems kind of like a lot right off the bat.
It is. That actually is just like straight from the start. I'm gonna go under.
Yep, same here. They're going to spread the ball around, I think, a little more. Obviously, Lazard and MVS haven't seen next to nothing so far. And
Mhm.
I was at the game last week, and when they had that Lazard or that Tanyan touchdown, it was third down, and I was in that end zone. And I was like, Lazard, first down, come on, let's go. And then he zips it right past him and hits Tanyan, and it was so fast to where I was like, holy shit, like what's he doing? Boom, touchdown. Then Tanyan's flexing the end zone, and I'm just like, holy shit, man, that
Yeah,
was
he stuck that right in there where like I don't think Tanyan had a
nuts.
choice but to catch it. You know,
Yeah,
he
nuts,
and yeah,
dude.
like you said, dude, he had Alan Lazard open underneath. You know, he could
Yeah,
have gone either way, but he took the harder
yep,
throw.
no doubt. That's what I like to see, though. I like it. So
Absolutely.
perfect, man. We got one more here before we close it out here. Last one is total points scored over under 50.
Oh, that's actually uh
Pretty spot on, I think.
yeah, I agree. I'll take the over.
Over. Perfect. I'm right there with you. Before we close it down, I want to thank you for hopping on with me. Any last words?
Follow the GBP daily account because the guy that runs it is awesome and was very nice to invite me on the show for a second time. So that
Oh,
means I didn't blow it the first time. So I did a good enough job to come back a second time. So
heck yeah.
thank you everybody for watching us. And if you want to follow me, you can find me at it's Zachariah J on Twitter. You can find me at Packer Report and Game on Wisconsin every week.
Yes, sir. So I appreciate you coming on last week or last 2 weeks ago. We had you on the first time. We had a blast and doing the over unders. I think is kind of interesting for those who are into betting or whatnot. I'm not a
Mhm.
betting man myself, but I think it's interesting to look at what the experts in Vegas kind of have those lines at, especially with the player props and whatnot. So I figured that'd be kind of fun, and obviously going over all the groups and with everybody knows what our group situation's like and kind of the things that are going on between the O line and our receivers and our D line and whatnot. But I figured it would be fun to kind of look at theirs and see how we fared against it. So,
Yep.
anyways,
Vegas always knows.
yes, they always do. Yes, that's why those casinos are big and bright and fancy looking. So, good stuff. Well, thanks to all of you who tuned in, and check out the description of this video for links to Zach and I's social links and to kind of where you can find us at. So, for Zach and myself, we'll catch you guys later.